Welcome back to my channel. I'm Maggie Ostara and I'm delighted that you're here. And this is our transit report for the month of March 2024. This is a big month for me personally because it is my birthday month, and it is a big month for all of us because we are moving into spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. I always like to start by showing the human design mandala because a lot of times people haven't seen this. But in fact, this one image encapsulates the core features of the human design system. So here we see in this image where the sun is going to be transiting the different gates during the month of March. We're going to start in the gate 63 and we're going to complete in the gate 21. Then the earth, which is on the other side of the mandala, is going to go from the gate 64 through the gate 48. And here you can see them together, totally across the mandala from each other. And they move around counterclockwise over the course of the year. So for the month of March, here the image that we have here on the left is all the different energies that the sun and the earth are going to be lighting up. And we don't have a center highlighted like we have in January, where we had the root center highlighted. And in February, we had the solar plexus, the emotional solar plexus highlighted. Here we are going to have a number of gates in the emotional solar plexus lit up as well. And we do have a bit of a predominance of gates over here on the left-hand side of the body with the emotional solar plexus, the will center, and then the G, which is in the center. And then over here, we've got a bit of the logic circuit that is being lit up as well. And then this image is showing all of the gates that all of the planets are going to be lighting up during the month of March. And you can see that all of the different centers, except for the sacral center, is being lit up by one or more of the gates. And the outer planets, the really outer ones, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, are all in the same gates that they have been in during the course of the year, though we do have another story for Pluto that I'll get to in just a second. The big changes that we have is Saturn is going to move from the gate 37 into the gate 63. So we're moving from tribal circuitry to logic. And this is the first time we've had one of the outer planets lighting up a gate in the logic circuit for quite some time. And then Jupiter is going to move from the gate 24 to the gate 2, and both of these gates are on the knowing circuit. But what I want to emphasize here is that the gate 2 is the magnetic monopole in the lore of human design. So it is a single pole magnet. It sits at the bottom of the G center and it attracts. So it is the force that brings things into our lives that we get to respond to. If we are any type of generator or invitations that'll come to us for projectors, it is this place where we are allowing in. It's the gate of allowing in quantum human design. And so it's really receptive. And so even for manifestors and reflectors, we all love being able to focus on allowing and being receptive and having things come in for us. So Jupiter is the planet of blessings, right? And expansion. Sometimes can go into excess, but generally we think of Jupiter as a benevolent and a positive force. And so we like this idea that Jupiter is going to be moving into the gate 2. That's really going to be enhancing our ability to receive what it is that we're desiring in our lives. So the story with Pluto, which you've probably been hearing if you're tuned into astrology at all. So this is a much bigger deal in the astrological world than it is in the human design world. But I wanted to point it out here, and you can certainly go and find different astrologers talking about this on YouTube. I've been really enjoying listening to Pam Gregory lately, if you haven't discovered her yet. So Pluto has been in the gate 60 for a long time. Pluto's going to continue in the gate 60 for another a while, I think another year and a half, something like that. So it's not that he's changing gates, but he's changing which line in the gate. Now, what I want to point out here is you can see the gate 60 is being lit up here on the mandala, And what you'll notice is that just the very end of the gate 60, moving into Aquarius. So then when Pluto moved into 60.6, which you can see is highlighted here on the body graph, that is when Pluto moved into Aquarius according to the human design system, because he moved into the gate 6. And this just happened really recently. It was like the 24th or something of February. And so there's been a lot of conversation in the astrological world about Pluto moving into Aquarius and now staying in Aquarius, because he's kind of been there and retrograded back into Capricorn and now is fully in Aquarius. It's going to be here for 20 years. So in the astrological world, this is a big deal. This is what we've been considering, moving into the age of Aquarius, and we are going to be moving from the much more kind of structural, discipline focus of Capricorn into the more expansive and regenerative energy of Aquarius. And so Pluto is going to be really inviting us to take a look at how these systems are working or not working, and to burn them down if they're not working, because that's what Pluto is about. It's kind of that phoenix energy. It's like, it's not working. Let's just burn it down and build it again and build it differently. So if you've been noticing breakdowns of systems in your world, there is an astrological reason for that. I just had a conversation with somebody recently who works in a school system. I've talked to different people who work inside of school systems. They're all talking about how the school system is breaking down. We know that our medical system is very challenged. Our political sphere, certainly here in the United States, is deeply vexed. So we're seeing this everywhere. So I wanted to just bring it in here to show you how this works inside of a human design context as opposed to an astrological context. Beginning today, Friday, March 1st, the sun is going to move into the gate 63 and the earth is going to move into the gate 64. This is really highlighting how we know what we know. And this kind of a transit can be challenging in a few different ways. The sun is lighting up the beginning of the logic circuit, which is over here on the left side of the brain, right? And then the earth is lighting up the beginning of the sensing circuit, which is right-brained energy. So we've got both of the right brain and the left brain energies are lit up during this transit. And on one way, this is awesome because we want both of our left brain and our right brain energies online because we want all of our faculties, right? The challenge for most of us is that we've been heavily conditioned into left brain dominance. So then we tend to kind of engage with life in analytical ways, strategic, more linear, more focal, that sort of thing. Because that's how we've been taught, right? We've been taught that since we were the littlest kids. Whereas the right-brained energy, which is more expansive, it's more creative, it's embodied, it's experiential, tends to not be so valued by our overculture. And so we tend to think that the things that are coming through that left brain are more valid. Okay, they're more valid, they're more reasonable. We can track them, we can study them, we can prove them, and all of that, right? Because this is where the scientific method lives. Whereas what's happening over here in the right brain and the left side of the body, not so much. This is highly intuitive energy, highly creative. It operates according to different rules. And so we want to be able to have both of them, but a lot of times we tend to believe the logic more than we believe the other. So what's really being highlighted here is how do we know what we know? So the sun in the gate 63 is lighting up, like I said, the beginning of the logic circuit. It is doubt in traditional human design and curiosity in quantum human design. And it is an energy that's really important for us because it's how we're starting to receive information that's coming from superconsciousness through this gate. And the question is how do we respond to that energy? Right? Because if we respond to it with doubt, think about what doubt is like. Doubt tends to be kind of, I doubt it. We tend to get a little contracted with doubt. We tend to turn in a little bit defensive, a little bit skeptical. right? I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt that. Or we doubt ourselves. I doubt that I can do that. I doubt that I'm capable of doubt. I doubt that I have what I need in order for this to come about in my life, right? The doubting. The doubting is a pretty downward spiral kind of energy, whereas curiosity is an upward spiral energy because it's much more expansive. It's much more, what is there here? What can I find out about this? What can I receive? What can I learn? How can I grow from my interface with whatever it is that's coming in, these different ideas? So I always like to say that, the best science comes from curiosity, not from doubt, right? It comes from, wow, look at this thing that's happening in the living world. I want to find out more about it. I'm curious about it. I want to dive in. I want to study it. I want to commune with it. I want to feel what it's like. And then that's when you start, having a hypothesis, and you might come up with an idea, and then you might want to prove it and all of that kind of thing, right? But it starts with curiosity. That gate of curiosity is resting on top of the gate 64, which is what the earth is lighting up in its right-brained energy. And in traditional human design, these are like a couple of really negative words that are coming out of traditional human design, which is confusion. Again, we're having a download. It's in the head center. So we're having a download from super consciousness coming right in here through that gate 64. And if you're coming from a logical point of view, right, you might be confused by what comes in, because it obeys different rules than what comes in through that logic circuit. And it's been renamed divine transference in quantum human design to help express the beauty of what's happening in this gate, right? We're just plugged right into super consciousness, and the divine is transferring, right? It's bringing it right in, is transferring downloads, potentials, insights, possibilities, creative potentials, and so on. And so we want to be able to really ground ourselves in those ideas, those insights. They could be nonverbal at all. There might not be any words because the left brain is way more verbal. The right brain is more imagistic. So it could be more images. It could be more, like scenes that you get, visions that you have, and so on. So while we're going through this first transit of March, pay attention to how you're feeling about the information that's coming to you. And if you're moving into a kind of confused or doubting state, or if you're more in curiosity and welcoming in that which can be coming in, even if you don't understand it, right? Because sometimes when we do get downloads from superconsciousness, that we don't necessarily initially understand them, and we certainly don't necessarily understand them with our logic. So we want to be able to be more expansive and more open and more full of possibility, and just kind of be with something and let that come in so that we can feel it and see how it's going to unfold in our lives, rather than just being skeptical and rejecting it and being doubtful from the very beginning. On Thursday, March 7th, the sun is going to move into the gate 22 and the earth is going to move into the gate 47. You can see, looking at this overall chart, that we've got a lot of activations going on over here in that emotional solar plexus, like we did last month in February. And so we've got 4 different gates that are being lit up right now during this particular transit. And so the gate 22 is on the emotional solar plexus. It's in the knowing circuit. It's known as the gate of openness in traditional human design, or the gate of surrender in quantum human design. And I really think of this energy as one where we are being receptive, because the knowing circuit is individual circuitry, and it is going to be receiving downloads that are highly intuitive. They're not logical or rational or analytical or anything like that. Again, it obeys different rules than what we have in the logic circuit. And so we're being open and we're kind of surrendering to what's coming through to us. The mate of the gate 22 is the gate 12, which is right up here on the throat. And the 12 is known as the channel. And so this is where we are being able to express some of the downloads that are coming in through that knowing circuit. So its mate is to be open, right? It's to surrender to a higher consciousness that wants to provide us with some insights. It wants to give us more to work with. It wants to help direct us us in our lives, right? And to be able to be open and to surrender that way, we really need to feel like we are in a dynamic and supportive relationship with spirit, right? And that we are going to get the support that we need when we need to get it. And the knowing circuit is definitely on that leading edge of consciousness. And so it requires a lot of faith, right? It requires that we do, really kind of surrender. We're open to what comes. We surrender to the higher consciousness that's coming to us and seeing what it is that's going to bring us, and to know that this is going to provide to us with what we need when we need it. There's a real theme in the emotional solar plexus about it because it is that creative center. Then the earth in the gate 47 is the gate of realization in quantum human design, or the gate of mindset in quantum human design. So this is the beginning of the sensing circuit. In the last transit, right, we had this 64 lit up, right? And now its mate is being lit up. And so we're just kind of continuing here to be receiving through that sensing circuit, the creative ideas, the expansive possibilities, the experiential way of feeling and knowing things. And so, it's mindset or it's realization, but what it's doing is it's receiving that divine transference, right, that we were talking about in the last transit. It's receiving that and then going, well, what does this teach me? How does this help me understand a belief system, if you will, or how am I going to view the world now that I'm receiving this information into this sensing circuit, which again is really, it's called mindset, but it's not really analytical because it's in the sensing circuit, although it is in the ajna center, and the ajna center is where we think of as our thinking mind or our analytical mind. So I like to think of this gate as a place where we're helping that analytical mind of ours be a little bit more open than a lot of times it is otherwise, because like I said, that left brain dominance that we get conditioned into tends to make us want to translate the creative and expansive ideas we get into something that is a bit more structured and logical and so on. And it's a little bit like clipping the wings off the butterfly when you do that, right? So during this transit, you want to be looking for yourself as, how do I stay open to what wants to come in through that knowing circuit and also through that sensing circuit? They're two different forms of intuition, two different ways that we are opening up to that creative intelligence of the universe. How do we want to stay open to what is coming in and allow it to inform us so that we know that we are fully supported, not just through one form of knowing, which is our logical way of knowing, but through these other ways of knowing, which actually, when you put these two together, they're bigger in the human design system than the left brain logic is. So you will do really well by letting go of any attachment that you have to analysis during this time, or making sure to figure things out. Just trying to let that go and allow yourself to receive, surrender to it, let it in, and see what unfolds in your life. On Wednesday, March 13th, the sun is going to move into the gate 36 and the earth is going to move into the gate 6. Let's get ready for a kind of intense and emotional transit during this time, because both of these two gates are on the emotional solar plexus, so they are emotional, and both of them can be a little bit tricky. So let's talk about the gate 36 first. So the 36 is known as crisis in traditional human design, or exploration in quantum human design. So you can see right here what I'm saying. It can be a little bit tricky, this energy of the 36. So the 36 is in the sensing circuit. So it's creative, it's right-brained, it's experiential, and it really likes adventure. It really likes to explore. It really wants to engage. This whole channel that going from the emotional solar plexus up to the throat is all about, trying things out, adventure, exploration, and all of that. But the crisis can arise when we are not paying enough attention to what's going on. We're leaping into doing things. We're not giving it time. Remember, one of the themes for the emotional solar plexus is that we have to give it time. If you're emotionally defined, you really have to give yourself time to make good decisions for yourself. But anything having to do with the emotional solar plexus needs time. And so we can throw ourselves into crisis if we are, leaping into things because it seems attractive. We can get a little bit of shiny object syndrome happening here because there can be a desire for more and more experience. And it can also lead us to a little bit of a jaded quality. So that jaded is, kind of the disempowered aspect because it's like, oh, been there, done that, already happened, right? Like that. And so the invitation in the more awakened expression is to really stay fresh, to be open to experience, to, even if you've done something before, to come to it with beginner's mind or with a fresh attitude and open heart so that you can really enjoy what you're doing as you're exploring it and diving into it. But if you're doing it because you're afraid or because you're chasing after, desire, because that can happen here, then you definitely can find yourself in a state of crisis to a degree. This is also a place where you can break patterns of the past when you're recognizing the way that you may have at some point, been doing this kind of creating crises for yourself. And so you can break these patterns of the past so that you truly can have that kind of freshness and exploratory quality to your engagement. And then the Earth is lighting up the gate 6, and the gate 6 is a little bit of a tricky energy. So it's in the defense circuit, which is tribal circuitry. And it has what's called aura busting qualities. So all 4 of the gates and the 2 channels in the defense circuit all have aura busting qualities. And so what does that mean? Well, it is that the energy kind of penetrates. It kind of moves out and it penetrates. And when we have it as a transit that's big like this with the Earth, just remember everyone's going to have that. You want to be giving people a little bit of extra space. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt because their energy might feel like it's kind of strong coming at you. That's why it's been renamed impact in quantum human design, because the 6 definitely has this penetrating, impactful energy. Now, it's also part of the channel of love and war in traditional human design, or the channel of mating, because its mate, the 59, is known as sexuality in traditional human design. So there is a lot of kind of sexual energy, and the 6 gets to kind of work with that 59 energy to see, is this a good time to engage sexually with others? Is intimacy a safe thing? Because, emotional energy is going to want intimacy, but it's going to want that intimacy to be safe. And so the 6 helps to kind of sort that piece out. So as the Earth is here, you want to ground yourself in the understanding that this energy can be impactful, and it can kind of create some friction if you're not paying attention to it. But it can also be a lovely way of sorting out, is this a good time for intimacy? Is this a good person for intimacy? It doesn't always have to be sexual, but it can be. So it can help you make those kinds of decisions. And then that is creating a foundation for the Earth that's in the gate 36. And it can help you to stay out of that crisis mode and be more in that exploratory phase if you're really just kind of honing in with that emotional energy to be like, is this a good time for something or not? So you want to watch out for this particular transit because it is one that could go sideways more easily than some of others, because it does have all that emotional energy, and we do have that potential for conflict that can happen in that part of the defense circuit, and which is why it's called the channel of love and war. But just remember, this is not the war like we're seeing in the world today, like what's happening in Palestine or what's happening in Ukraine. It's not that kind of war. This is more about the ways that families can war with each other, or it could be tribal. And in some ways, those wars that I just mentioned are tribal conflicts. They have long histories. Going back many generations, but the scale that they're at is much bigger than tribal. It's much more global collective energy in human design, but much bigger energies happening there. So just watch out for conflict, come back into your heart, tone down your emotions, find the right time, and have some fun. Go exploring with the right people and at the right time. On Monday, March 18th, we have a beautiful, beautiful transit. It's going to be kind of a relief. That's going to come in after this last one that we just had. So the sun is going to move into the gate 25, and the earth is going to move into the gate 46. And these are both on the G center, which is the center for love and lovability, identity, and direction. So these are really beautiful, kind of love-filled energies that we're going to get to experience. So let's talk first about the love of spirit or spirit, the gate 25. This is just a beautiful, beautiful energy, right? It is in that G center, and it's the energy for helping us just really connect with our own spiritual connection, with the spirit that is within us and the spirit that is all around us. It is when this is being lit up by the sun, it's a really great time to infuse your spiritual practice with even more love, with even more compassion, with even more devotion. And if you don't have a spiritual practice, this is a really good time to start one. It doesn't have to be religious, doesn't have to be complicated, but it is a time for you to connect with yourself, right? So it's you meeting you, but it's your human self meeting your spirit aspect. And so I always highly encourage people to have their own spiritual practice. And in my book on feminine sovereignty, I devoted a whole chapter to it called Your Daily Date with the Divine. And so you might want to take the opportunity during this transit, if you don't have a spiritual practice, to develop one. And you can take a look at what I have in my book, because there's a lot of different suggestions about what you can do if you don't already have something that's working for you. Or you may want to refresh it. You may want to start over. You may want to have a new connection to it. Maybe a new practice or a new way of doing it, or doing it in a new place. But then let's take a look at this, which is the channel of the priest or the priestess or the shaman. So the north node is lighting up the gate 51, which is on the will center. And so here, as the sun is transiting the 25 on the G center, they're going to connect and make a whole channel. And so during this particular transit, we're going to have a defined G center and a defined will. And this actually connects the two parts of the heart chakra together. In human design, these are both parts of the heart, and they're going to be connected during this particular transit. So this is a beautiful, beautiful channel. As I said, it's a priestly or a shamanic channel. It has to do with the ability to initiate oneself and others into higher consciousness, because that's the energy of the 51. That can be a shocking experience sometimes when we get initiated, but it doesn't have to be shocking. It's by nature, it's going to be somewhat disruptive, just because when we get initiated into another level, usually something has to kind of break apart and fall away. So it can be that, but it doesn't have to be shocking, even though the 51 is known as the gate of shock in traditional human design. And the 51 can be a challenging energy. I do have this defined in my chart, so I know it quite well. I'm actually really looking forward to the transit of the 25, so I can get that whole channel for myself going as well. But it's a huge ally and a tool for us on our spiritual growth path. This is also the transit for the equinox. So it's the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere. And this year it falls on March 19th. It's a little bit earlier than usual, but it is definitely during this transit. And I like to note this because it is the time of Ostara. And I took the name of Ostara from the goddess who presides over the spring equinox, because this is also my birthday month. And Ostara is also known as Astarte and Oester in the ancient Celtic traditions in Old Europe. This is pre-Roman. And so these were tribal people, and they acknowledged the equinoxes and the solstices and the cross-quarter days. Very important to the really land-based people, the earth-based spirituality that they had. And so when I found this, I was like, oh, Ostara, that is an energy that I want to receive. And the early Christians took her name and made it into Easter, which is why we get Easter. And Ostara is why we have eggs and bunnies that go with Easter that have nothing to do with the crucifixion and the resurrection, but it does have to do with fertility and with regeneration and with rebirth, right? And so that's that kind of energy, is this rebirth energy, because during this time, depending on where you are in the Northern Hemisphere, like where I am, spring is full on by the time we get to the equinox. In other parts of this country, for sure, other parts of the world, they could still be frozen, they could still be under snow, although many people are getting a warmer than usual climate change kind of a winter, so they may be in to spring already. But I just wanted you to know that this is a time that has been revered by people around the globe for, millennia, for a time when we get this growth happening again. So the Earth is lighting up the gate 46 during this transit, and this is a beautiful energy also. This is the love of the body or embodiment. And so this is an energy that helps us to, again, it's on that G center, right? So it has to do with love and lovability, identity, and direction. And this is about how we are in this beautiful, incredible form. I mean, the human body is a miracle, really, if you stop and think about it. And the question that you want to ask yourself is, what's my relationship to my body? How in my body am I, or am I not really in my body? Pillar number 3 of feminine sovereignty is all about embodiment and our vitality and our relationship to the living world. So that's also another great reference for you from my book for this transit, because it is taking a look at what is our historical training having to do with our relationship to our body. And, generally for women, we lost our sovereignty under patriarchy, and our bodies were not our own. And we, were more or less traded around among men who had more power than we did. And so our relationships to our bodies could get very complicated in that case, right? So we're coming out of that now, in even those of us who we like to think of have more control over our bodies, right? There are some laws that are being put out there that are saying, hey, maybe you don't have as much control over your body as you think you do. And so this is an important time for us to be looking at our relationship to our body, developing our sovereignty over our bodies so that we have agency about what happens to our bodies and all of that. It's easy when we feel like there are outside forces that are impacting our relationship to our body to want to kind of energetically pop out of the body. So this is an invitation to come all the way in the body, ground yourself, incarnate again, keep coming in, keep inhabiting this body. Whatever is going on in the outer world, just keep inhabiting this body. And it's beautiful when the earth is lighting it up, because the earth, of course, is what our bodies are made from. What are our bodies but, sacks of water with minerals in them, and activated by prana and life force and our own spirit, right? Our soul. And so our relationship to the earth is very, very critical to our relationship to our bodies. So this is a wonderful time for you to be exploring and taking a look at that, and to be looking at springtime. How can I be in my body more? How can I take care of my body more? How can I be making sure that my body has what she needs? Looking at your food, you might want to do some lightening up around this time. This is a traditional time that people do cleansing and lightening up, and doing different kinds of practices to kind of let go of the heaviness of winter. So this is a beautiful time to just be getting in your heart, loving your body, loving spirit, expanding your sense of gratitude and appreciation for this form, for this life experience, and to be, celebrating the expansion of springtime, and to, be celebrating the rebirth and the regeneration, and to be taking a little bit of time to just make sure that you're on track with how your year is unfolding. On Sunday, March 24th, the sun is going to move into the gate 17 and the earth is going to move into the gate 18. Now we have a big energy change here, moving from the G center, which is where we were in the previous transit, and now we're in the logic circuit. So both of these two gates that are being highlighted are in the logic circuit. So the gate 17 is on the Ajna center, and as I just said, it's in the logic circuit. And this gate is known as opinions in traditional human design, opinions, and anticipation in quantum human design. So we get this little theme here with logic, right? Especially the traditional human design names, opinions, right? We had doubt earlier in the month where we were looking at, doubt. So opinions can kind of be held that way, right? And then it's been renamed as anticipation in quantum human design. And this is really great because positive anticipation is a potent force, and we want to be able to be receiving and bringing in the positive ideas that can come to us through that logic circuit. But if we're stuck in our opinions, then we might not be able to be receiving them in the same way, or we might color them in a certain way. Now, don't get me wrong, I have plenty of opinions. If you've been following me for any length of time at all, you know that I have plenty of opinions. And it's not that opinions are necessarily bad. It's more about when we express them, how we express them, if we express them with judgment or to try to control or manipulate situations, which is really the shadow aspect of the 17, right? It's like, my opinion is right, and I'm going to stay here in this conversation until either you agree with me or you shut up. Not so good, right? So you want to be able to shift that if you've ever had that. A lot of us are actually trained to communicate that way, but it's not really very good for relationships. So instead, if we can have a positive anticipation about something, and because that can, again, be more open, we're kind of exploring and seeing what's possible. What's coming in? What can I learn? What can I receive? What can I understand? And to have an expansive approach to that, that's going to really help us a lot, as opposed to kind of the more contracted, these are my opinions. So the Earth is moving into the gate 18, which is in the logic circuit, as I mentioned before, and it is known as correction in traditional human design or realignment in quantum human design. So let's remember that the logic circuit has been renamed the pattern circuit in quantum human design. So this energy is about wanting to make sure that the patterns are correct, or to bring things back into alignment, so realignment. This is great, for example, for accounting, for editing, for anything that has to do with being able to see where there's any errors, where things don't add up, or like with editing, if the grammar is wrong, or if there's a typo, or there's a word left out, or there's an extra word. That kind of thing. So it's a great energy for that. It's also good for organizing and making sure things are in its place. And so that's really what we want to be able to use this energy for. It can have an edge to it. The 18 can have a bit of an edge because it can come across as being judgmental. If you think of it as correction, right? People like to be correct, but nobody likes to be corrected. So while the Earth is lighting this up, we want to be able to use it, and it's before taxes are due, so you can use it for your bookkeeping and your accounting if you want. It can be great for that. But you want to watch out if there's this energy that, especially if that energy gets pointed at other people. I have a really good friend who has this in her chart, and I love seeing the way it works in her life. There's many wonderful ways it works in her life. But every once in a while, she'll say something, and I'll be a little bit like, ouch. And she'll be like, oh, correction? I'm like, yeah. So there can just be this edge that comes across as being better than. That's what it comes across as being better than. I know what the correct answer is, and I'm going to make sure that you know what is correct. So you want to watch out for that, because nobody likes to be corrected, right? So here we have the logic circuit. It's lit up. We want our patterns to be in order. We want to bring things into alignment. We want to have positive anticipation about how that's going to feel and what we're going to experience as we do that. You just are going to want to notice that there is a big energy shift from the previous transit, which is where we were all about love, right? And now we're all about logic. And if you can, bring some of that love that you had, right? Love of spirit, love of the body. Bring some of that love in here to infuse this transit, which is going to be a bit more, it's going to feel more analytical. It's going to feel a little more, logical and strategic and all of that. And there's a place for that. I mean, it's not that isn't valuable. It's just we want to make sure that it doesn't come across as like I said, trying to correct other people, correct other people with your opinions, because you clearly have the right opinion, right? Want to watch out for that. And if you notice that other people are doing that during this transit, just cut them some slack, because this is getting lit up in their chart and they may or may not even realize that it's happening. And then you can use that as an example of something that you don't want to do. Then on Saturday, March 30th, the sun is going to move into the gate 21 and the earth is going to move into the gate 48. So I know this very well because this is my incarnation cross. And here we've got one gate that's in the logic circuit, which is where we were in the last transit, right? The gate 48 is in the logic circuit, and it's in the spleen center. And then the gate 21 is in the tribal circuit, and it's on the will center. So in traditional human design, it's called the treasurer, and in quantum human design, it's known as self-management or self-regulation. And it is, like I said, it's on the will center, and it is in the tribal circuit, so it does have to do with our relationships with other people. It's in the commerce aspect of the tribal circuit, so it does have to do with money and resources. Everything on the will center is going to have to do with resources and value. And so the 21, traditionally with the treasurer, right, is the one who's making sure that the money is in the right place, it's going to the right place, things are coming in and going out and all of that. It's also an energy for like project management. I know when it was first introduced to me, I learned about it as kind of like this CEO gate, the one who's kind of in charge and project managing. And then in quantum human design, it's been renamed, like I said, self-regulation or self-management. My understanding from speaking with Karen Curry Parker, who created quantum human design, that she called this self-management or self-regulation because the regulation of resources always starts with the self, which makes sense, right? But to me, it's a little bit of an odd naming because it is in the tribal circuit. And so the tribal circuit, and particularly here, which is it's known as part of the channel of the money line, actually is what it's called, the 4521 in traditional human design, the money line. And so it has to do with exchange and commerce and things like that. So for me, in my book, I actually have renamed it stewardship. The reason I did that is, for one thing, we need to have stewardship in the chart somewhere. And I was kind of like, where is stewardship going to be? And I realized that if we go back in time, right, and we're looking at where did this treasure come from? And its mate is the 45, which is the sovereign gate, right? It's the sovereign gate. So what is supporting the sovereign? Well, stewardship. Because if you think about a castle or you think about a manor, there's a steward. There's somebody who's in charge of that domain. And they are doing that with the sovereign. In that case, it could have been somebody from the aristocracy, could have been a duke or a duchess, or it could have been royalty, some part of the royal family. But whatever it was, there was somebody who was kind of in charge of the resources and making sure, like the treasurer, where they were going to go. But in a more traditional, more feudal environment, it may not have so much to actually do with money. It may have to do with more with labor and other kinds of resources. So really stewarding, the flocks of sheep or the cattle or the geese and the chickens, and stewarding the well-being of the manor, the homestead, the place where everyone is residing, and making sure that everything is happening the way that it should and the resources are going where they should. And so this feels really accurate to me in terms of a tribal energy. And for us in our modern day, stewardship is about our ability, yes, definitely to take care of ourselves first. It's the proverbial put on the oxygen mask on yourself before you do on other people, and that's where self-regulation can come in. But in addition to that, it's about how are we taking care of the tribe and how are we taking care of the living world? Because stewardship always is going to involve other people. It's always going to involve, a physical domain, and it's going to involve things like animals, right? And also the labor of individual people. And so the steward is the one who is looking out for all of those things. So as we're moving into and looking at creating this new world that we are so desiring and we so need, as the more traditional things are breaking down, is taking on the mantle of stewardship, recognizing that we have a responsibility, and in indigenous traditions is more often known as an obligation for us to really be taking care of the living world. Human beings have had such a huge, profound, and often detrimental impact on the living world that we have to step up and expand our ability to provide and to give to the living world, and not expect it just to go on, forever, no matter what we do to it, and also not necessarily to be able to regenerate on it under its own force. It may need more help than that. So that is what stewardship is all about. So the foundation for that is going to be the earth lighting up the gate 48. So the gate 48 is on the spleen center and it's in the logic circuit. And in traditional human design, it's known as depth or the well, which is the I Ching name for it, or wisdom. And wisdom comes from life experience. It does come from research and learning, and the 48 is really, really good for research. I know that the 48 helped me tremendously. For example, getting through graduate school, becoming a professor, writing my first book, writing all the articles I wrote as a professor, and then writing the book I just wrote, and then also just all the research I've done over the last 25 years since I left the academy, because I'm always a lifelong learner. I'm always diving into what's new for me to learn. So that 48, I obviously didn't know about it back when I was in graduate school or as a professor, but I know it would nonetheless, it was supporting me. So this is a beautiful, beautiful energy for knowledge and for turning knowledge into wisdom through life experience. So that's our foundation. And then we've got our stewardship that is on top of that. And we're going to really rest our stewardship and knowing what it is we need to do, both from the information that we take in, the research that we take in, whether that's that we take in from other people, or if we're just observing what's happening in the living world, which is, of course, what scientists do, right? This is all science starts with the living world to begin with. And then that informs us in terms of our stewardship. How do we actually want to be being stewards of our world? And we do that, through life experience and through observation and from learning and from research and all of that. So this is a really beautiful combination to have here at the end of our March transit report. I want to let you know about a couple of things that are coming up this month. This first one, the Sacral Skills Lab, is actually starting next week, and it's going to go for 3 Thursdays in March. And I am offering this because I have so many conversations with generators and manifesting generators about how interested they are in getting to know their sacral response. They want to know their strategy. They want to be able to use their authority, but they're confused, right? They don't know, is this, is the information I'm getting, is that actually my sacral, or is it my mind, or is it my feelings? How do I know, and how do I trust it? And it totally makes sense that we would have challenges here, because the sacral authority, like all authorities, is intuitive. It's not rational. It's not reasonable. It's not logical. It's not strategic. It's none of those things, which is how we've been taught to make decisions, is with that left brain intelligence. But the sacral isn't any of those things. And it's not logical. It's not emotional. It's not verbal. It's just really different. And I've just, like I said, through so many human design readings and working with clients, and this was a huge topic when I did my Embody Your Human Design program, in the second half of 2023. People wanted to talk and work with their sacral authority all the time. So I got very inspired to say, hey, you know what? Let me develop a lab that will really teach people. And not just teach, but also give you the practice, the hands-on learning that you need to really know if you're working with your sacral or not. Because the thing about your sacral is it can be like your best friend. I did a reading for somebody earlier today, and I said, it's like a genie in your pocket, And your sacral authority can work in ways that you probably have no idea. I have developed my own methods for asking sacral questions that help us to get a lot more information than I think most people know how to do. So I'm also going to be teaching the participants in this lab how to do that kind of questioning, so that over time, and as they get good at it, they'll be able to learn how to ask themselves questions as well as work with somebody else the way they'll work with me in the lab. And the link for that will be down in the description. And don't delay, because it's starting soon and it's filling up as well. Then in April, I'm going to do a workshop based in my 2 ebook series called Transform Your Life with Human Design and the Deep Dive Journal. And the Transform Your Life with Human Design is like a 75-page, I think it's a little more than that, full color, beautiful ebook that walks you through the fundamentals of human design. And then the Deep Dive Journal plays off of the ebook Transform Your Life by asking you questions that help you take the information you get in Transform Your Life and then apply it to your life. And so I'm going to do a workshop on April 13th where we're going to go through this and actually do a number of the exercises that are in the Deep Dive Journal, and of course take it a little bit farther because we're going to be in person. And people have loved this book series, and I think that people like it, but I don't know that they always do the deep dive. The application is the thing that a lot of times we don't do, right? And I'm all about experience, and I'm all about practice. And how do we actually take this and utilize it and change our lives with it? Because you can't just read something and have it transform your life. You actually have to take it and implement it and make it real in your life. So that's what this workshop is going to be all about. I hope that you have enjoyed this March transit report, and that you are going to come back and watch it. I will release clips about it also during the course of the month, so that you don't always have to come back to the full report if you don't want to. But I hope that you enjoy it, and I would love to hear how this lands for you down in the comments. And of course, you're always welcome to email me. I love to hear from you. Okay, many blessings, much love. Bye for now.